retirement fee. Let's just
use them.
Use them, their youth, their energy. Exhaust them. How about society? So what? Let's just put higher walls. You know, if they're poor, then they're poor. They're born on the opposite side. But and then environment. So what about if we earn a profit and then to hell with the environment?
Yeah.
And you see how this kind of narrow leadership by a defined generation, if you want to call it, has caused a lot of problems in our society. You can't have that leadership in one of the most the one who has the most resources, the most economy, and at the same time the most power.
Of course.
We don't have a very strong political system that counters this with with jobs, with environmental protection. It's growing, no? But the leadership really is in business. So the next generation really is how to have the new broad set of leadership, which is to focus on employees, to focus on society, and to focus the environment. So we're now expanding the leadership. And so there are people that are criticizing on that one level, which is me and nobody else.
Yeah.
That is maybe a survival instinct. But as the business grows, maybe you should start broadening, because you cannot operate as a single entity despite everybody else being in misery.
You live in a world of people where people interact. So if it's just you, how can you share something to other people? Right. And you're affected by what everyone else.
And so business is really has to have a broader definition. And it's not to say one's better than the other one. We need banking, to have local strong banks to equal foreign banks. We need industries here.
Different industries.
So we need that balance. But the thing there is industry that does not have a corporate social responsibility. But now we're looking at the other side, which is not just a tax deductible. Okay, corporate responsibility. We have a 4 million tax deductible. Let's look for this NGO and let's dump it.
Yeah.
And
they don't even know what's happening.
And it doesn't it doesn't even matter if it's going to grow or not.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a great tax deductible. But in a real world where there's so much poverty, and where we've been putting so much money, but it doesn't seem to be combating the rise in hunger and poverty. That means something is intrinsically wrong with the system of just handout donations and tax deductibles. So you have to go back, which is for me, hey, that's our money. That's taxpayers' money that these companies withheld. There must be a new form, which is corporate, what is philanthropic giving, philanthropic investment, which is you start out as a business, but then it grows. And so PR1 was something like that. We were saying, you started off with a little bit, but because of the energy of the people, that it solved
everyone was passionate about it,
and it solved the social problem, that it would grow. And so that's what it is. We want charities that you should just give into adding on, I think, the essential ingredient of businessmen, which is we're not used to giving things away. We're used to growing things. So why not charities that grow with the funds that you gave them primarily?
And with the people being able to contribute as well.
Right, and that's what is called social enterprises, or enterprises built on solving a social problem using profits to alleviate poverty. But it has to be in a system of business.
And it has to be sustainable like any other business, because people always say charity, but it has to have funds also. That's why other people are running, what is this social entrepreneurship all about? How does it earn, etc. At least now you're able to explain how the system really goes.
Right. I mean, charity in itself weakens the population, weakens the economics. It just does a lot of things that damage it over the long term. Charity can be for short term, but if you're going to do this every year, but there are two charities, of course, that have a particular niche for me, which is disasters and children. And the social enterprise. There are almost social enterprises for everything. But there are some things that I think are sacred, that really there should be money put inside. The problem is when everybody's a charity and they reach into the funds of this essential, like I'm a charity for this, I'm a charity for this. And so all of these inefficient charities are all reaching into the same pot of the same sponsors. What we're saying is, if you can survive on your own after 4 years or 5 years, then maybe leave the charity to the essentials, to the children, to the people.
They're really for that short term.
Yeah, and you can't put a social enterprise with children. They're just like, they're people that are displaced by calamity or war. They're
That's
just
a different
certain
case,
social enterprises. But in the normal setting for, I don't know, environment, there are things that when you think them through properly, go the extra mile, there are businesses that can grow based on that, whether for arts, whether for environment. There are certain sectors that can be taken care of by entrepreneurs.
And how do you think people can find out more about this? Because I think the greatest barrier to social entrepreneurship is people don't know where to start. Because as you said, it's always charity, and how do we make it long term? As what you said, you started at PR1, but if I were like maybe a normal citizen, I would think, how would I start something like that? I mean, do I go to this community and approach them?
As any education, you have to learn. You have to learn what it is first. Yeah. It also pays to be somebody with business skills, because to know how to run a business is the same wherever. If you don't know how to run it, you run a high risk of failure. But in the internet, there's Echoing Green, there's Ashoka, there's Acumen Fund, and just type in social entrepreneurs, and there are like thousands of stories. So for us, it looks like something new, but for the world, it looks like it's the next new wave that is changing. And in Harvard Business School, it's so strong that they actually have a building for social enterprise right there on the HBS campus.
Wow.
So then, and a lot of students now, they don't see a future of just money, but really it's money and service. And this one combines it. Then, so one of the biggest things that people are curious about is social enterprises, and so the club has become really strong. It's just here really people have to look for that balance.
I think it's also the open-mindedness of people that
or just awareness that there's not just two courses in life.
Of course, it's not just one direction or this path.
And also with your money that you want to give to society, you have to also start being more concerned about its longevity and not just a conscience, capping. It's like,
it now.
Here it is. It's like
5 million, 20 million.
But there are people that have spent that, and you can really measure the impact. Hasn't been that sustainable. Like for example, before the concept has been trinkets, like all these beautiful trinkets and bracelets, but nobody really buys them. You go to several times when I talk sometimes in venues, I said, look, has anybody bought an ashtray? This is from Pinatubo or trinkets without the proper design, and sometimes they keep on doing this kind of work that has no market, and that's what I'm saying about the next
proper research.
Research. So there must be applying the business principles. If it can't survive in a normal business, it's not going to survive in an NGO. So it will be a maltreatment of them to give them a livelihood that has no market value.
And they'll just get frustrated and feel like, okay, business is not for me.
And they use their resources, and at the same time, the people would just stop the program. And of course, handouts again.
Yeah, definitely.
The second part of the My Shelter Foundation was really looking for what was called the middle ground, which is between empty land and cement, steel, and glass, which you had to go into mortgage, which you had to have banking, which you had to have architecture, engineering.
A lot of other factors.
We were just looking for that basic principle of, can man provide a shelter with simple tools and with things under the, things that are available. And so we started doing earthen construction, not so much because we were thinking in alternative, alternative architecture, although it was there, which is the cradle to cradle, which is first of all the cash flow. If you're talking about business, instead of money from that community, agricultural, paying for cement, steel, and glass to build some kind of housing, we were now looking forward to how they can use earth, use local community with local materials and build something stable that can last 25 to 30 years. And so we started going into earthen construction and indigenous building, and using farmers and people themselves to be able to start building this kind of rural infrastructure. And so that came out pretty well. We have 4 schools, about 20 classrooms each, built at 1/4 of the cost using I think there's some pictures over there on the earthen schools.
When did you start the earthen schools?
We started this about 2004, and we started using like rice bags, which are readily available